morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain. So,
well, it's Thursday, June the 23rd. Welcome to the program. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
Yes, it's a day to be glad and be grateful for. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Webimo.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, good morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. I said this one for those who keep asking me, when did you move to Abuja? I've been here for many years and I'm still here.
People ask.
Good morning from here, the nation's capital.
Oh boy, sometimes you thought that what you see is what you get. But it doesn't happen all the time, does it? Okay, well, we've got Mr. Sylvester Abodage here with us. He's to take us through some of the headlines this morning. He's a publisher of National Daily Newspaper. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Pleasure and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, where do we start? It's almost spoiled for choice. Let's see. Look, maybe we should just go with this right in front of us. The New Telegraph. They're talking about this back and forth about the fuel situation, which I don't know when Nigeria will stop talking about this kind of issues, but it is a reality. Premium Motor Spirit. Ipman backs IMF. World Bank says 165 naira per litre, not realistic. Are you surprised about that they want to back this? Because they wanted to go a little higher, don't they? Yeah, and then you get to see as faction pleads with members to accept FG's price, appoints consultants to recover debts, private depot fuel loading, other expenses cost between 175 naira and 176 naira per litre. So, there we go again. Even though NNPC tells us, hey, I think they said NNPC insists on 165 naira per litre. But here we are today.
Well, it's unfortunate that we are having to, be in this trap again. We are having to grapple with this unfortunate development for a country that is judged to be the 6th largest producer of crude oil in the world, that had 3 functional refineries at the time, and with improved technology, it had capacity to have a minimum of 6 massive refineries, refining products, not just for local consumption, but in fact should have been the major supplier of all these products to Africa. Looking at how positioned we are. Developments like this only cast aspersion on the leadership quality of those, the quality of leadership we have had to experience over time. Because to think, that this time this is what we'll be discussing, how that it is expensive, or how that this price is not feasible, it's not sustainable, because we are importing what we are producing. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Aliko Dangote just proved to us that it is possible. So why have we not made this possible over time? Why do we have to depend on importation that is based on the dollar rate, how the dollar is performing? It's based on forex. So how much is it landing at? When this is something behind every back house, practically in the Niger Delta and in the oil producing states. So this is not good for us. And I think we can't continue to import these products.
Are we about to be delivered with the processes going on with Port Harcourt refinery? Remember, they told us that it's going to come back on stream.
They've told us many times. You see, now there's a trust issue. They've told us again and again. And then to think, that is one area that many believe that there's a massive corruption right now. Every year, NNPC should come out and tell Nigerians how much is spent to maintain refineries that are not refining products for consumption. And then, we shouldn't even be talking about this. But now we're here.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
And
NNPC must have a reason why it insists it must be at that price. So what does NNPC know and understands that the Ipman
they are
others
the ones who
not,
are they're sole importers of the
Yes.
product. And so if they're sole importers, they're getting the subsidy payments, and if that's happening, they have a tank farm. So unlike maybe those who buy from private depot, so they say, look, if you buy from private depot, buy at a higher cost. So if you buy at a higher cost, almost maybe like what? Did they tell us 164, 160 or thereabout? And so we can't sell at that because the operational costs. How can we sell at 165? Because we'll be selling at a loss. Even though I'm not in that business, so I don't know how that works with them. But
definitely NNPC has more work to do. As far as the pricing is concerned, they have to sit down with the owners of the private depots.
Speaking about having more work to do, look at this headline. This is just above this one. It says, SON indicts customs over influx of fake goods into Nigerian ports. So you just ask yourself so many questions, because in some other climes you would have thought, well, if this were the case, shouldn't customs boss or both of them, be answering questions to Nigerians? How come?
Sure. Again,
Is customs twisting SON, forcing fake goods into the country? This is a serious matter, because this leads to a lot of
this is where it boils down to leadership. How committed are we to ensure that the agencies that have been established, saddled with specific responsibilities, are carrying out these responsibilities effectively. For SON to go public, I'm sure there have been internal memos. So who glossed over these memos? Who has not given attention to these issues? This is a serious indictment on the Nigerian customs.
Remember when the border, some of the borders were shut? And then I think with Nigeria's narrative was that they needed to ensure that these kind of products don't get in, and smugglers don't get in. And then we did ask the question. So there were people who were manning those places. Have they answered the question? Now, the SON is coming up with this. So it means that could that have been a futility, all of that closure?
The only reasonable response, the only reasonable development we should see beyond here are heads rolling. Inquiries being set up, proper investigations, not another panel that would lead to nothing. Because when allegations are made like this and then we don't follow them through, we just leave, room for others to continue.
Essentially, this is why we have government, to ensure that these issues do not keep coming up. At least people that are meant to take responsibility should take responsibility. But you see, in this case, a lot of them are throwing their hats in the ring, seeking either election or re-election. So let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper this morning. Leads with 2023. It looks like that's where the attention is. But don't forget, we still have the present challenges of security, the fuel scarcity, and the rest. So this is what you find on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. 2023. No place for placeholder. Falano, senior lawyers, back INEC. Interesting play of words there. But take a look at the writers. Like presidential candidates, VP nominees can only withdraw from race voluntarily. More writers. Suggestion that a VP candidate can be substituted at will is erroneous. Position elective, not appointive. 2010 Electoral Act, where political parties could substitute candidates, repealed in 2022 amended act. So this placeholder, I want to say palabra, but anyway, this placeholder matter, it looks like a term that has now been introduced in our political context. But then you see this one, no place for placeholder. Do you think this is maybe impunity or rascality taken too far in politics?
It is everything and more. Everything you just described and much more. It just shows the unpreparedness of our political parties. It just shows that it is all about the election for them. Because if really there was a preparation, we are often told that for the average politician, all they think about after an election is the next election. So how come 3 years down the line, we knew ab initio from 2019, May 29, after the current administration was sworn in, that by May 29, 2023, there will be a new government. Of course, there will be a new government. And then INEC came out with its timetable. I mean, so to see that this is where we are, number one, it shows the lack of proper planning on the parts of the political party. They were up and about everywhere, jostling, wanting to be candidates. But they didn't really think through the fact that every candidate needs to have a running mate. And it is not just one.
Right.
Even those who appear to already have a candidate, they are having internal crisis.
So can we extrapolate and say maybe this is how they will handle governance, policies, issues, essentially, not being prepared? Can we say that that's what might happen when
that has characterized our various governments in recent history?
So this is a foretaste of what to come?
That is just what it is. Unless something drastic happens, unless they sit up and make Nigerians know that they are serious, because that's why people now are trying to look beyond these faces and these names we already know, because people think that is same of the same. Okay. I mean, they're going to, but actually this is the first time in actually recent history that we're actually we are dealing with this embarrassment. Because to me as a person, I feel embarrassed that a party, for instance, the ruling party or the governing party, would go into a presidential primaries. I mean, all of these I's have been dotted and T's appear. I mean, we're believed to have been crossed. And then to get to this point, we are talking about placeholders. But tell a country of 200 million people, you're holding place?
Well, clearly, so much on that particular one. But hey, INEC's deadline has elapsed. Names have been submitted. So perhaps that's all we hear from that. We'll wait to find out. There's this one also, response to the president. IPOB, a product of a justice. Ohaneze replies Buhari over the comments about prescription the president made in that interview. And right next to that, Moment 6 review of single supplier strategy for petrol is something we've talked about. We also call it PMS. And some are advocating that maybe we should remove the spirit from there. So it's just petrol. It won't be like spirit every time, disappearing and appearing as it wants to. That's a Guardian for you.
Okay, Kayode, I don't know about spirit, but Mr. Budage, you talked about being embarrassed, because we're at this unwholesome juncture in our nation's politics. Speaking of embarrassment, some people or some group that may feel embarrassed in recent times, maybe the All Progressives Congress, because of the gale of defections of lawmakers from the party to another party. And that's what the Tribune leads with this morning. The paper we're flipping to is the Nigerian Tribune. And the big story goes thus: defections, panic in APC, Adamu pacifies senators. And you see the picture there, the Senate President welcoming the party chairman, and that's the National Secretary, and some other party officials right behind them. Is this a continuing fallout of the innovation of Section 84(8) that we saw that characterized the All Progressives Congress primaries? Or is it also having to do with, that lack of cordial relationship between lawmakers and their governors, who they say have this chokehold on the party structure at the state level, and as such the lawmakers are unable to express themselves and of course find their way through to getting re-election at the primaries? How are you weighing in on all of this?
Politics, like they always say, in politics there are no permanent friends or enemies. It's all about interest.
Hence the stakeholders, I'm sorry, placeholders.
That's all I call it.
So, if a politician who seeks an elective office and the nomination of his party feels his interest is no longer protected in that party, like we have seen in Nigeria, unlike in some climes where people identify with parties on the basis of ideology, and so no matter how they are treated in that party, they remain in the party because clearly it aligns with their ideology. But here, people align with political parties on the basis of interest. So more or less what we have are just political associations. And so I'm not surprised to see these lawmakers. You're also going to see governors defect in the coming weeks and months. I can tell you that you're going to see governors also defect because some of them are feeling that the candidates they submitted, maybe the names of those candidates have not been accepted, are not being forwarded to INEC by their political parties, and all they have to do is to find a way to hurt the party because it's a way of fighting back.
But do you think Nigerians are borrowing a leaf from politicians regarding that principle of interest? Because they seem to always dogmatically align with the political party, whether or not it serves their interest or not. Just, by association, they say, yeah, this is a party I'm in. They get nothing from the party.
Yeah, you're not far from the truth because, again, our political education is skewed, as it were, in favor of interest rather than ideology. If you want to ask today, political party A, what does it really represent? What's the ideology? And then you'll find it that the man who used to be a governor here is a national chairman here. The man who used to be a Senate president here is now a party chieftain here. And then so and that's why Nigerians are saying today, these are same of the same. And they are now trying to say, hey, we want something completely different from what we are seeing. Maybe these defections would also make the parties sit up. It happened in 2014 when the governing party at the time was the PDP. After every primaries, there are usually people who feel offended by the outcomes of those processes. And then if they feel that their complaints are not being addressed, they want to probably either go to where their interests will be protected. But in this case, from what we are being told, the interpretations we are getting from the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, is that if you have contested for an office or sought the nomination of your party for a particular position, you can't go to another party to seek same. So since they are not going to probably get what they want, then maybe what they want to do is
spoil
to try
the
to
chances of the party.
just hurt the party.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. Malkwe.
Oh, thank you, Bukola. Let's take a look at what Vanguard newspapers has for us this morning. It says energy crisis, petrol scarcity to persist. That's from stakeholders. Pengerson cites bridging cost, says high diesel price affecting trucking of petrol by tankers. Adds sole importation, inadequate funds, others can't guarantee supply. As Moman canvasses full downstream deregulation, says inadequate supply responsible for scarcity. So you find all the details on page 5 of the paper. I believe that our guest has already dwelled largely on that particular story. But look at all the stories they have here. 24 states get 477 billion naira refund for expenses on federal road projects. Looks like the federal government is going back on something it initially said it wasn't going to do, but page 7 might give details as to what the considerations are for. 20 missing Chibok girls still in Sambisa Forest. That's according to the rescued girls. A few days ago, the military made it clear, known that they had rescued 2 girls who came out of the bush or who were they seemed lost. And they rescued them and took them to town, and they suspected that they were amongst the Chibok girls that could have been taken in 2014. 8 years after those girls have been found. But look at this particular story, and this is the one I'd like you to comment on without prejudice to any other story you'd like to talk about. NUT threatens strike over sack of 2,357 teachers in Kaduna. Page 13 is where we'll find details. This is the latest threat in the line of, let's say, attempts by governments. And we've seen governments in Kaduna, in Anambra, try to, reform the service, the teaching service in their states, and sometimes it always follows with difficulty. What do you think that the governments are missing in terms of engagement with the National Union of Teachers?
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Good to see you this morning. Again, management. You know, when you have a responsibility as a government, you know, when you're going to make policies, you're going to take decisions that affect the people, you have to think it through. You need to sit down, you need to engage, you need to apply a high level of diplomacy. You know, the parties that are involved, carry them through, bring them in, let them be part of the process so that they see it through, and then nobody's going to have a problem with the outcome. And then look at options. Okay, we're taking them out. What are we going to do with them? What plans do we? These are citizens. So you can't just say we are sacking them. You know what that means? 2,500. You're looking at 2,000, probably 2,500 families, and then think about the members of those families, and then think about those who are related to them, those they patronize, and then this is a society that does not have a social security system, as it were, that, okay, if you are laying these people off, they have something to fall back on. And then, of course, if they feel that the process of laying off these teachers, you know, is probably not transparent enough, it is the duty of that government to sit down with these people and have a discussion, because ultimately it's going to affect what the government wants to achieve. If indeed its plan is to reform the educational system, that is going to be undermined, because at the end of the day, when the NUT decides to go on strike, we know what has been happening with ASU strike for months now. We know some of these kids are taken to criminality. Some of these kids are, losing their grip, losing their flow, and we don't know what it will be like by the time, should they ever come back soon, how they're going to have to try to get back to the system again. So we know what that will do to the system, which we don't want. So the government needs to sit down with them.
Well, look at Daily Trust. Who knows if what your reaction on this one will be. Military moves to flush out soldiers with divided loyalty. That's in parentheses there. And then the writer says deployment of unmotivated personnel counterproductive. Directive will further dampen officers' morale, ascribed to war veteran. Move misguided, ill-advised, retired colonel. I just wonder, some questions that really jump to mind is, look, how does the military determine those with quote-unquote undivided loyalty? And how did they come about having undivided people, soldiers in the army in the first place? And is this not going to be a facade to flush out a certain group of... There's so many questions about this headline, if it's anything to go by.
Clearly the security situation in this country is not one that anybody is proud of. Just a few minutes ago, we were talking about kids who were kidnapped in 2014, 8 years after. These are Nigerians kidnapped, being held hostage in Nigeria, and they cannot be rescued. And we seem to know where they are. But why they cannot be rescued, many don't know. Now, and efforts are being made. And we have seen, we are citizens, we read, we hear, we see how that efforts of some committed military men, officers and men who want to do all that they can are being frustrated. And so they know these people are in Sambisa, they're in Sambisa forest. We can't have a plan. Money is being spent, weapons are being acquired, but the result is opposite of what we expect. So naturally, there should be some men and officers who will not like the way the place is being run. However, the point you raised is very important, that we hope this is not an attempt to weed out certain people who probably have voiced their opinions, who are forthright, who are honest, who have said things the way they are, who have probably testified and made certain revelations about the truth of what is happening. Now, we don't want people to be haunted, as it were. We don't want that. So this process must be followed through in a way that there is no...
To keep tabs on that. We don't know if National Assembly has any oversighting role on this one. I guess we'll wait and see. Well, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sylvester Bodage. He's a publisher of National Daily Newspaper. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, yeah, taking a look at what's going on with preparations for the elections, the process, as you've seen there. We're joined now by Ademola Abbas, who is a professor of international law and global affairs expert. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning to you, Chamberlain, and your colleagues.
Well, yeah, you must have been keeping an eye on this process, several stages or components before the big day where we all file out to go cast our votes, a ballot, as it were. But now, one of the latest perspective now, or direction or decision, is that INEC will be extending this continuous voter registration. And we've seen some of the hassles associated with that, as you may have seen in that report. But from what you've seen about how this build-up is, particularly about the electorate coming through to ensure that their voice is heard or they participate in one way or the other, you think it's smooth enough or what?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain, and your colleagues once again. Well, look, let's say to start with, INEC has made some progress in recent times from where we were coming. But we've seen this before, to be honest with you. We've seen INEC tell us it was prepared for this, for that, only for the election days to come, and INEC will fail woefully, either in delivering materials into some places and so on and so forth. And just yesterday I was reading through and I saw the staggering amount of money voted to INEC every time election comes around, and how much INEC has actually requested more this time around. And you wonder, where do all these monies vanish to? Where do they go to? Because I just saw the last clip that you played, and I'm so happy that youths at least are coming out to say, you know what, we want to register. So we have moved from the youth apathy to youth now proactiveness to want to register. It is now on INEC and the political class if the youth are failed, if they are deliberately discouraged from registering, because all this to me, to be honest with you, translate to one thing: a deliberate effort to frustrate mammoth of youth who want to vote their candidates and make sure they rescue Nigeria, pure and simple. Otherwise, it does not make any sense at all. So whatever progress INEC has made, and again, we cannot run away from the fact that INEC has made some, taking some steps. Whatever progress INEC has made so far must translate into enfranchisement of all Nigerian voters, especially and particularly the Nigerian youth, who this time around seem to have woken up from their slumber and they have realized the mortal danger that the current political class has pushed them into.
Do you think that clip dampens the perhaps natural enthusiasm the extension may have brought, or should we just keep our fingers crossed on this one?
But there's no doubt that it's going to going to demoralize to some extent at the end of the day. But look, at this point we can't give up. The youth cannot give up. We must keep pushing. The extension, fine, but the question is, what is INEC going to do about the extension? You cannot be extending nonsenses all the times. If you give a deadline is a deadline. You must work towards making sure the deadlines are complied with and are respected. But if you, the setter, so to say, of the deadline, does not do all it requires for your deadline to be complied with, it doesn't matter how many times you extend, you will get the same result, which will be utter fiasco at the end of the day.
It looks like there's conflicting signals on this extension. Yes, we heard at the National Assembly that there's been conversation with INEC, and INEC has agreed to extend. INEC is saying, well, it's not official yet. We have not announced that extension. So it looks like June 30th, at least as at now, is still the date for that deadline. But clearly, as you have seen and corroborated. A lot of young people, a lot of Nigerians want to participate in the process. But it's been said also that, you know what, this started way before now. Okay, there was a window, months and months before now, for people to get involved. So what do you think changed? Is this the usual fire brigade approach, or just towards the end of, towards the deadline, a lot of people realized that, wait a minute, I need to be a part of this? Do you think something monumentally changed in the mindset of Nigerians?
No, Kayode, that's a brilliant question. Look, and I'm focusing particularly on youth today. I'll come back to my generation, you know, those who are in their late 50s, late 40s, early 50s, and this and that. If we just suddenly wake up now to say we are going to register, it's because there's money to be shared, pure and simple. I listened to a conversation in a building site a couple of days ago. I'll just anecdotize it. Two women were discussing in somewhere I was. They were being called out to come and join a political campaign, you know, albeit informal. And one was saying, well, encouraging the other one not to join. And that one said, why? He said, well, why do you want to go? What if there's a riot at that particular place? And the other woman said, well, I will have joined if what they were offering her amounted to a daily wage, which was 3,000 naira for a laborer. And she said, but what they were offering was 1,500 naira, not even up to daily wage. So that struck a chord with me, that woman was not discouraged about going because she thought there would be violence or anything, but because the money they were offering wasn't enough to at least, you know, sort of trade off, you know, are going to our work on that particular day. So when you flip it, a person like that will suddenly wake up. If you say, I'm going to pay you 5,000 naira for the day, come and join political, she will rush. That was the time the money has come to her. And that will explain, as I said, my generation or generation of the late 40s and early 50s, so to say, who are now rushing. But when you talk about the youths, let us be cautious here. If the youths are now surging, something monumental has shifted in their, you know, cognitive intelligence. They've seen for the first time, maybe they are now seeing that beyond answer clamor, they are now faced with a mortal danger to their existence, point blank in Nigeria. Nigerians have been brutally impoverished. The youths today are the worst for it. We cannot live in a country in which we keep on emptying our youths to Western Street for goodness sake on a daily basis. So the youth, I think for the first time, if I am not wrong, are now saying, look, I think all this clamor about 2023 now has actually, but for the family, in your case, one of them just said, finish, you are a graduate, you have nowhere to go. That is not going too far. You have people now, for the first time, I've seen estates now that are battling to have 3-hour supply of energy, electricity per day in 24 hours at the cost of as much as 150,000 naira per month. What are we doing to ourselves? So you have to sort of, you have to segregate it. The surge has happened for two reasons, for two classes. For those who are usually docile, you know, the oldies and this and that, maybe they're saying, well, politics has come around suddenly.
Just a bit about, if I could just get this little clarification on some of the points you made in passing. So what happens if perhaps after some weeks, assuming INEC comes up with that definitive announcement that yes, what the National Assembly or rep says is true about the extension, and then you have a lot more young people register. And then perhaps months before the election or weeks before the election, as the cause of the strike, federal government says, well, we'll sort this now, go back to school. What happens? Because you can't vote where you have registered at the moment if you have to relocate. How do you see that playing out?
Kimberly, well spotted. And that was why I said earlier on that for me, and look, we have to really call out certain things here. It seems to me, and I'm not calling it definitely, but it seems to me that the deliberate attempt to discourage the youth from voting. I have made a joke in the past, look, I think one of your interviews, that the government is a very smart one, even if it is brutally incompetent as far as I'm concerned. It's very smart. Any smart government will know how to take the attention of the youth away. Give them Big Brother Nigeria for 3 months. You suck them for 90 days. You don't focus on national issues. You want to forget about that strike. You want to forget about fuel. You want to forget about no job. Give them 90 days of staying glued to their TV and watching some people on television who do whatever they want to do at the end of the day. Take the attention away. At least for 90 days, you can then go about your business, the government, and demoralize them. So here is it. You extend at the end of the day, as you rightly said, then the universities are open. And that is where the youth have to come up with a deliberate strategy. You know, I mean, the whole question of what should Nigerians expect from the people they are voting is a recurring question. But for me, we should flip the question. Stop expecting anything from this political class. They have nothing to give. You can't give what you don't have. I'm a lawyer. The first principle of the law you learn is nemo dat non quod habet. You can't give what you don't have. The current political class, as it is constituted, is brutally incompetent, has no clue at all. They don't know what they are doing at all. They have no sympathy or empathy for the youth or for the country at the end of the day. So you can't be expecting the same people to give you anything. The youth must come up with their own strategy to make sure that if the government does anything that will waste whatever extension is giving them to register, then they can't amend that and make sure they register.
Right.
That strategy is up to the youth and their leadership to decide.
Okay, we'll talk about maybe trying to outsmart some of these things you said appears to you as though that's the plan. But I mean, that show you mentioned, it wasn't an idea of government. I mean, it's a private show. In fact, at some point, it looked like government was even against it. And you saw a lot of young people say, no, just leave us with our show, okay? Continue with your governance. But that's by the way, essentially. But at this point that was raised about election proper, when it's time to vote, how would young people, especially the ones that are in school, in case ASU calls off the strike, how would they get to vote and all of that? I believe that it's still the same process. They can always go back to vote where they registered, because this is a very important issue for them. So naturally, that's a way to outsmart, if indeed that's a plan. But I know we have a year until the change of government, well, just less than a year. And the thinking is always election is when you can make a change. But don't forget, we still have almost a year where governance will still happen at the various levels. So elections, one thing, but that's not the only way to be a part or at least decide or influence governance to go the right way, right? So what can young people do aside, registering to vote and eventually vote in election? Because as I said, we still have like a year to go in this governance, at least for this current administration and the ones at the state levels to leave.
Well, thank you, Kayode. I'm going to address your question. I mean, about 3 questions loaded into one. Well, quickly, of course, I know that the Big Brother Nigeria, and I'm not casting aspersion on the program per se, is funded by private entity, not government. But no, what I'm saying is that the government is much smarter than that. Even if there is clamor that should stop a program, and they know that program is going to benefit them at the end of the day, they will permit it. At the end of the day, that's, as you said, let's put that one aside. But the second issue is that it doesn't stop youths from coming back, even if they go back to university, to come and register. But what youths are we talking about now? They've been dehumanized. They've been debased. They have no money. They've been living off their parents. And for those of them who are not engaged in violence and crime and all this, they've been living off their parents. We want them to go back to, so you are living in Lagos, you will go to Anambra now to go and resume after 4 months or 3 months of lockup. Then suddenly now they want to register. Do you want to really tell me that you want to go back, Kayode, from Anambra to probably Sokoto to go and register, when you know that when you go to Sokoto or Kaduna at the end of the day, or Ibadan at the end of the day, INEC is not prepared for you. Registration is not going to take place. Are you not going to think twice before you go there? That is an answer to your second question. But the third leg of your question is, well, of course, contesting politically is not the only way you can help. I said it on your program a few times, that, look, we can join local level. We can be active at our local level. But I realized something, Kayode, you and your crew. No matter how smart you are, no matter what you want to do, the buck stops at the top, at the table of that person who takes political policies. No matter how smart you are, I'm a professor of international, for goodness sake. But at the end of the day, if I am not at the table, then I am on the table. It comes down to the person who is in that small office, who probably has never gotten more than 6, primary 6 education. And mind you, I'm not saying that person cannot be smarter than a professor. I'm saying who might actually be illiterate in some form, who doesn't have the kind of knowledge that you and I have got. It comes down to that person to formulate policies. And that is why, while youth must engage with other processes like, mobilizing to make sure that good candidates come up and this and that, they must also vie for political position. Because I have realized that 1 billion smart professors who are not in political arena are not equal to 1 total nincompoop or a buffoon who has never seen the 4 wall of a classroom before, who is bereft of any intellectual knowledge, who sits there and makes a policy that will be implemented. And I don't want to mention names. I've seen plenty of that. I took part in the government for 4 years. you don't want to know what sometimes you see when you're in government. So yes,
speaking of
right.
mobilization, Professor Abbas, speaking of mobilization, Chamberlain asked a very instructive question at the start of the program when he talked about interests and how politicians are always about their interests, and the call is for the youths to, get involved. But at the end of the day, we find out that they also end up aligning with these interests, so to speak. And tie that now to your narrative earlier about the youths reaching an awakening in recent times. How do these youths now deploy these, this awakening that they've come into with the choice of political parties that we have? How do they go about making the best choice about political participation? Where do they align with, so to speak?
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. I recall saying it on a program long ago that when we focus on the Electoral Act, for instance, we forgot then, and we still forget now to remind ourselves that the act itself has already ripped out youth from active politics because of the enormity of cash requirements in terms of picking up forms and this and that. So it is a process naturally rigged against the youth. That is the place to start. When you have that, what can the youth do? But when you go beyond that, I also said it long ago that, look, youth have power in this country. Under 35s in Nigeria constitute about 60 or 65% of our population. Permit me again to go back to my analogy of Big Brother Nigeria, and I'm using that for a particular reason. I watched youth a couple of years ago when I tried to pay attention to what actually they were doing. They were mobilizing. I saw youth. These were like 20, 21-year-old young girls who were buying mobile phones to give to their friends to vote for their candidates on Big Brother Nigeria, BBN. And I'm thinking, you know what? And I called some of my younger friends. I said, if you just put, and I know how much they pay per vote. I said, if you youth, if you organize yourself, you're about 65% of Nigerian population. If you organize yourself and you just contribute 1/10 of what you are spending to mobilize to vote for BBN, to put up candidates and support that, you will achieve what you are having. But you know what the problem with our youth? I'll tell you straight away. They don't want to do that. We want to be, they don't give us opportunity to participate. They don't give us space. Nobody is going to hand the space to you. The people you are talking about, they are elemental. The people you are talking about, the political class, this is their livelihood. They will die there. In this country, a president is a do or die affair. I am happy Patrick told me said a couple of days ago, it's a die or live affair for Nigeria, not a do or die. But when you have politicians whose mindset is that it's a do or die, and then you are expecting them to come and hand over this thing for you on a platter, it doesn't work like that. So youth, when I began, I said, they must devise their own strategy. They have woken up, and I'm happy about that, but they should never expect the current political class, for goodness sake, to give them a space. The youth must demand that space, and they must get it.
Mr. Professor Abbas, so do they go with the establishment? Because, in being strategic, that's the only way we can win elections. So we have the two political parties. Or do they, deploy other means of, joining other political parties or setting up other political parties themselves?
Personally, I will answer that question this way. If you look around the world today, whether you go from the Philippines, where the Marcos are coming back, or you go to Colombia, where you have an ex-gorilla becoming the president now and the first black vice president, go around the world. There's a sea change, and there are models for our youth to learn from. I am not going to pontificate. I don't want to make that mistake. I'm not going to say, don't join APC, PDP, Labour Party, whatever. I'm not going to say, don't join that or go and start, But the youth of Nigeria are super smart, they are intelligent. I cannot prescribe what they will do for them because I know for sure they know what to do. When they really want to do it, they know what to do. Some of them are going to do it. Look, parties themselves are not bad in themselves. PDP, APC, if they, I don't regard them as bad, but let's say they are associations or parties, if you call them that. It's not that they are bad. It is the operation of those parties that is terrible. People can go in there and make change from within. That's another thing I'm coming to. Youth also must be prepared to invest time. It's important, time. Because if you just say today, I'm going to form a new party, how long does it take you? But you can join existing parties, Labour Party, even PDP, APC, and work from within. I lived in the UK, went to Tony Blair, Peter Manderson, Gordon Brown, and the cook, the so-called four within the Labour Party, they were schoolmates. They built the Labour Party from within, and they gave Labour Party what they called the new Labour at that point in time. And we saw what they did between 1997 for about 10 years after. So the youth of Nigeria are smart. They are super sharp. They've been doing wonders in the world. What we are saying is that bring some of those wonders to your country, evolve your party if you have to, join the existing structure if you have to, invest time and money. At the end of the day, wait, it will happen. But don't think you are just going to wake up. But our problem is the youth want to stand up now and become president of Nigeria. It doesn't work like that. So organize yourself. At the end of the day, what you want will come to you.
Take it a little further. You know, you've been in government, so you've seen practically what plays out to a large extent, how some of these politicians think, what informs their decision, why they do what they do. So for young people, where and how do you think they should all approach this, such that it's not a case wherein if you can't stand the heat, you get out of the kitchen, because this is not a 100-meter dash. It's a marathon. They need to be there and get their voices heard big time. How do you think they should, number one, organize themselves? Where should they focus the most energy to make either this short-term impact or in the long term?
Thanks so much, Chamberlain, for that. You hit the nail on the head. Look, I've chatted with you and some of your colleagues a few times. I came out of the government. I had an opportunity to pick my bag and run out of this country because it was hot. But I told myself the initial mistake our own fathers and grandfathers made was that they left Nigeria, they went overseas to study and to get whatever, and they decided to live there permanently and abandon this country to crooks and idiots who they came back to meet, and their children are coming back to meet at the end of the day. That is a mistake I don't want to make again. And I told myself, you know what? If the kitchen is hot, I will get in there, stay in there, and get more coat layers on my skin until at least either I'm able to withstand the heat or the heat consume me, whatever happens. That is the mental approach our youth must have. It's very, very important. That's number one. Number two, the Nigerian youth needs self-personal development. I know what I'm talking about. I will tell you. You cannot understand Nigerian politics by just reading newspapers. I just finished reading probably for the 10th time Wole Soyinka's Ibadan de Penkelemesi years. And I was frightened, and I'm still frightened now to see correlation between what is going on now and what went on in the Wild Wild West in those days and in Ibadan Penkelemesi years. The future for Nigeria is dastardly, whether we like it or not. And that's where the youth will have to start with. They have to start, first of all, giving themselves that self-awareness that our country today is on the precipice. We are ruled by people, unfortunately, who don't seem to understand that Nigeria today has almost fallen into an abyss. I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but we have to call out certain things. We have to call what is a spade is spade. Youth have that self-awareness to do. I've talked about organizing themselves. It's important because self-awareness will have to come before organizing. And the whole idea of just saying, you know what, if I can't be there, I'm going to join there, I'm going to crave, I'm going to hit this. It won't serve anybody at the end of the day. I live in states in which I'm sorry to say, I have idiots who are making policies, government policies on daily basis. And we have to live with that. What is wrong with us? Nigerians I'm not the one who's saying, even Barack Obama as a president of the US said Nigeria are some of the smartest people living in the US and then everywhere in the world. We can do this. But what is important is self-awareness is important, self-development. Let me give you an example. I'm happy you raised a question with your last guest when they were talking about inability to choose a running mate and this and that. And I'm happy the way your guest answered that. It shows a lack of preparation. But let me stretch it back a bit. Chief Obafemi Awolowo resigned his post in 1970-71 as the Federal Commissioner for Finance and Deputy to go on, saying that apart from that, he could no longer serve under the democratic government, that he needed at least 3 years to prepare to run for Nigeria's presidency. That was in the 70s. Fast forward 40, 50 years later, you have people who are holding ministerial position and CBN governorship saying, no, by the way, I want to contest Nigerian presidency. Well, I'm not going to resign. No, I'll be serving as a minister, or I'll be the CBN, I'll be in the CBN. Oh, come and get me a former run for Nigerian president. Are you kidding me? You see serious politicians of the past, they will take 3, 4, 5 years to prepare to being the president of the country. So what is going on is a consuming field. It shouldn't surprise anybody who understands the political dynamics and historians.
If I may comment on the conversation, I'd like to interrupt your thoughts a bit. Sorry about that. when we talk about Nigerian youths, it would seem that there is, I hope that we're not using a one-size-fits-all mold. Yes, there are youths who, I mean, largely we seem to be talking about those who are in university. Those are the those who are certainly in one type of vocational training or the other. But then, you know, some people will say that that might not typify the entire population of Nigerian youths. First, how would you delineate them, and how can we break down this figure, this 65% of the population, to thoroughly understand just perhaps what their preferences might be, how traditions and norms affect them, their culture, for instance, religion, and maybe perhaps how that could affect how it is that they effectively participate in politics?
Thank you very much, Margaret. I think that was very helpful. But look, when I use the word youth, and again, I am very much aware of the fluidity of the age bracket. You know, in Nigeria, we have seen people who are 75 calling themselves youths. We have seen national youth leader in Nigeria who are 65, 70, you know, stuff like that. But what I'm trying to do here is to appeal to what you can call a universal common sense. When you see somebody is a youth in a civilized community, you're not thinking about a 65 or 70-year-old. Maybe at best you're talking about somebody from maybe between the age of 20 and maybe at best 45 or thereabout. I am in my early 50s. I don't consider myself as a youth anymore by that bracket. But it doesn't mean that I don't have youthful ideas. That's number one in terms of age. But in terms of dispensations and orientations, I completely agree with you. You have so many youths who are not, you know, some of them are in university, formal vocation, education and vocation, some are in this and that. But what is important to me, Margaret, to your question, is that I am not looking at segments now. I am looking at a particular age bracket whose lives today seem to have been mortgaged, to have been completely dehumanized and jaded by the Nigerian governance system, is what I'm looking at. And to break it down, whether you are youth in schools today or in a formal education training, or you are in a kind of a vocational training, albeit, apprenticeship, this and that, you still have a stake in this country. Whatever is going on in Nigeria today affects you. And again, if you go back to the politics of the old, and sorry, I keep on going back, because to understand where you are, you must know where you're coming from, to be cliche about it. And you don't know where you are coming from, you won't know where you are, and you cannot be able to plan for the future. So we have to keep on going back to the past. In those days, you have people who are, for goodness sake, we all know about Chief Michael Imodu, what he did in this country with his labor movement. He wasn't a professor. Super sharp, super committed. He was able to mobilize workers in this country, labor force in this country of different trades, beliefs, religions, persuasions, and this and that. And they delivered fantastically. And we hold this country to people like that.
So that's the thing. Prof, sorry to interrupt your thoughts again. Do you think that, Nigerian youths can find, because this is, you spoke of an awakening. One of the things that we were told gave President Buhari his victory in 2015 were the youths. I mean, they were one of the elements that gave him his victory. He has always had a pretty strong following in the North. I mean, mustering at least 11 million votes by himself, majorly made up of youths. Do you think that youths today see a common cause? Have they been able to rally despite language, despite religion, because sometimes it would seem that, and also perhaps despite educational background, do you think that they would really be able to rally around a common cause?
Okay, I think I'll be lying if I say a straightforward yes to your answer, because it means I'll be very, very naive. I'll be naive about the roles that politics, politicking, and religion play in our national life. I'll be naive to say that if you call a youth from Delta to the region, or you call a youth from Yoruba land today, or a youth from Hausa, those three youths and four, whatever they might be, will react in the same way, with the same, purpose to whatever you place. And that is because there is so much politics infused in them. But the truth here is, hunger has no discrimination. Death has no discrimination. When you sit this youth down, take away from them the first tuning, so to say, of the political class, who manipulate and use them, this youth, for their whims and caprices. If you call those youth out and you put them together, you'll be shocked that the youth from the north is not thinking any differently from the youth from the south, whether southwest or southeast. We've seen youth from different parts of the country speak the same language on so many national issues. But that is possible because they are enlightened, because they are organized. And I think that is where the challenge of youth leadership will be. Look, I schooled, I was in UI in Betobada from 88 to 90, then LAG 90 to 95. And I was telling some of my youthful friends nowadays, I said, look, in our own generation, I'm sure some of you witnessed it. There was no social media. If we are going to mobilize for student union protests in those days when I was in UI, you see youth leaders will leave UI to travel to all the way to Kaduna. We didn't have phone to go and mobilize youth in Kaduna or Sokoto or Bauchi in those days and stuff like that. We would take 2 months to plan all those things because there was no phone, there was no social media. And we achieved mammoth result. Make no mistake. When NSA happened and my friends were talking, I said, NSA was huge. It was a huge, for me, was a turning point for Nigerian youth. But I said, NSA also should look back into what was done in the past. We were not fighting democratic forces. We were fighting brutal dictatorship, military dictatorship in those days. So you're absolutely right. Religion, culture and so many things play a role. But what is important is the way these values have been deeply politicized to divide Nigerian youth. And that is a challenge for Nigerian youth.
Prof,
how to bring themselves together and go beyond that.
Let's wind down with this. I mean, in your opening, you cited an example where, someone was going there for, 3,000 naira or 1,500 naira. Now, there's this narrative, this school of thought that believes that those who actually vote and choose the people who lead this country are those cadre of people who perhaps have little or no education. And then the people who are the problem may just be the middle class or those who are supposed to have that much education. And so when we speak about leadership recruitment process, the message doesn't resonate with those lower cadre of people. And that if the middle class were to actually stand up and be counted, they can make that difference. And perhaps that's why those politicians think, look, our message is not meant for you people. We know where the message is meant for. It is those down there who we can sort out in a little way, and they can stand the heat. They will do the voting. Is that right?
Chamberlain, absolutely right. And I think I've said it several times. I have a friend who's pretty high in politics. I won't mention their name or their sex. We're talking about a very, very serious national issue, and this person occupies a very, very sensitive post as I'm talking today in Nigeria. And I told them, I'm using them there because I don't want to disclose their sex. And I told them that, look, this thing should be like this. Listen to what the intellectuals, the elites, listen to what the middle class is saying, this and that. And this person looked at me and said, Prof, I'm not bothered about those people at all. I'm only concerned about the people who are going to vote on that day. And I've said that, Chamberlain, on your program many times. Our youth should not be social media warriors. Social media don't vote. The current, what is going on at the moment now, in which people are now forcing people to go and get what is it called, PVC. Or don't come to church without your PVC. Don't come to church. Or don't come to this. You have to show me. Oh, okay, it's good, but you have to look at the intent. If you force me to get my PVC without making me understand why I need to go and get the PVC, can you vote me? Can you force me to vote? The answer is no. I can get my PVC because I want to please my pastor to enter church, but you won't force me to vote. What is important is to make the youth to be aware of why they need that PVC. Because as you've said, really, I have seen it. I have run an election in this country alongside others for a candidate in Lagos. And I saw those who vote. Go and check how. Because it's supposed to have 25 million people. How many actually ever vote? 1 million, 1.2 million, 1.1 million, with everything you deploy. And that's it. I'm talking about Lagos, for goodness sake. So at the end of the day, the elites in the country are going to, I've joked before about it, they're going to be watching Manchester and Arsenal that day when the people are voting, and they'll be asking, oh, by the way, who's leading? They're not going to do it. And that is why I keep on acting on the role of the youth. And again, I go back to what Mark said. I'm very happy she pointed out that. I'm not talking about the youth only in classroom or the academic youth. No, youth in general. In this country, we have seen youth. We have seen people who have not been to university educate the largest political followership. You know who I'm talking about. About the people in Ibadan was an example. And we have so many examples like that. So youths can reach out across and bring themselves together and checkmate. And that's what I was talking about, the strategy. If anybody comes to your show and say, oh, this is the only strategy, they're making a mistake. The youths should deploy the same effort they've deployed to become tech savvy, to become some of the leading minds in the world of technology. Nigerians are fantastic. They're great. They're fantastic. They can do it. This for them is a piecemeal. What the youth need today is a directioning. Is somebody to say, hang on, guys, I have been here before. I know what is going to. This is what we should be doing. It may not even be to change anything in 2023. It may be, you know what? You woke up too early in 2023 or to 2023. This guy will muscle you to out of it. Let's take the next 4 years and start planning and decisively want to go there. The good work, the hard work should start now. Otherwise, 2023 will be determined only by the market women, only by downfall drivers, only by the NURTW who have been incredibly empowered to make sure that their own voters actually turn out. They're some of the best organized. It's deliberate. Don't let's kid ourselves. So the message for Nigerian youth is that shine your eyes and see what is coming at you. You can do it.
What a note to end it. And by the way, they are the ones INEC used to distribute the logistics, the materials, the sensitive materials, and the like. So quite instructive there. Well, thank you very much indeed, Ademola Abbas, Professor of International Law and Global Affairs expert.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, back in a moment, we'll turn our attention to a recurring matter. You find out in a moment. Stay with us. Well, yes, that's the matter we did speak about, the pensions. Well, pensioners have been protesting concerning the non-payment of their entitlements. We'll get to take a little deeper dive and find out what really is going on. Well, last time out, GIFMIS needed to speak on the matter. The Accountant General was also mentioned, as it were, on those matters. And so we'll have them all here to shed some light, probably not heat, on this matter. And we've got today Comrade Abiodun Michael, Secretary, Federal Civil Service Pensioners, Lagos Chapter. He makes a return. We also do have Comrade Christian Azuna, who is the National Secretary, Federal Civil Service Pensioners, also here in our Lagos studio. So two comrades here in Lagos. But we also do have persons who can shed some light as well on the same subject matter in Abuja. Makwe?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Indeed, we have with us Mr. Jeremiah Asanato, who is the Deputy Program Manager, System Support and Sustainability, that's GIFMIS, at the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. And Mr. Ini Nathan is also here. He's the Deputy Director, Accounts, at the Civil Service Pensions Department of PITAD, as a Pension Transitional Directorate. Well, gentlemen, I have to thank you both for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Quite a lot to digest from what transpired last week. The Executive Secretary of PITAD was here trying to explain what happened, why it was that pensioners had not been paid. I think about 3 months arrears. She explained that it was, I think, 3 months of consequential adjustment, but they said it was more than that, that there are other people who had not been attended to. And she mentioned that oftentimes when they upload from the end of PITAD, there could be a glitch with the GIFMIS system, which is linked to which is in the Office of the Accountant General, or sometimes between GIFMIS and that of the CBN, or sometimes the CBN and the banks, and on the process goes before it eventually gets to the final end user, who is the pensioner. So you are here from GIFMIS, and this is not the first time we have heard complaints about the GIFMIS system. I think even doctors in their protests have also complained about GIFMIS. Sometimes they say, oh, we want to be taken off the GIFMIS system. Is there a problem with the GIFMIS system?
Thank you very much. I think it's a misconception. The GIFMIS system is for all MDAs, including PITAD. And the system, by design, once a payment is finalized in the system, GIFMIS, in that case, has finished its functions. It goes through the payment gateway to the CBN. So the issue that we are seeing on failure of payments is not really related to GIFMIS per se. When a payment is finalized in GIFMIS, it goes through the payment gateway to the CBN, where the TSA is debited, and the beneficiary bank is credited. Now, it is left for the bank to credit its end beneficiaries. Sometimes we have network issues or system downtime from the banks. Sometimes we find that some of the accounts are invalid and the payments fail. At that point, automatically, the funds are reversed back to the funding account, where when we receive a complaint through service desk or through our contact with PTAD, we send a service desk request to CBN, and they give us a schedule of the payments that have failed with the reasons why they failed. We send that back to PTAD, they confirm, and they reprocess.
How long does this process take?
Okay, ideally, within a day, when we get the service desk log from PTAD, we send to CBN. We get within 24 hours the update and the report, which we pass back to PTAD, and they reprocess the payments. So saying that it's a glitch from the system, I think that is not correct.
Those are not my words. I mean, those are the words of the executive secretary who was trying to explain the process, that there could be a glitch in the system. And she was explaining the process in terms of how things are passed on from PTAD's office to eventual pensioners. So the question is if this has gone on, if pensioners, some have not received their backlog of arrears in 3 months, there are questions as to how quickly these complaints are received and how quickly they are resolved. I do not know if you have any, you say if you receive it in 24 hours, you're able to resolve it. But if that is the situation, pensioners should not be out on the streets complaining. Perhaps, Mr. Nathan, you'll be able to shed a little more light, because you deal directly with the cadre of pensioners who are involved in this protest.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, first and foremost. It's actually necessary here that we bring some other salient issues to the fore. The issue of, non-payment of this arrears, I actually want to, state here, is not peculiar to just system glitch. There are instances where some, pensioners, are not actually paid because of observed inconsistencies in the record, provided by them. And like we all know, this is a new order in pension administration. We are actually trying to avoid, the error of the past. So in the cost of, processing this payment, where the directorate observe inconsistencies in your record, definitely you'll be, excluded, from the payment list. And of course, the pensioner will be communicated. There are issues as well, where some of these pensioners has provided, wrong, account, number, in the cost of during their verification. And of course, we know they are senior citizens, as a result of probably their age. It's not out of place that, this, errors could, come to play. Yeah. So while, processing, executing their form in the course of verification, a lot of them have actually, entered wrong account numbers. Some have even had to, mismatch account numbers with banks, because some of them do have, different other banks. You can see a pensioner having 2 or 3 banks and representing, a particular bank number for the other.
Let me ask more specifically. Last week, we had the president or the secretary of the Nigerian Union of Pensioners here, and he mentioned a few cases. I mean, he said there are several of their members who have been affected, and he brought a few of them to the studio to show my colleagues with papers there, or documents there, so to speak. I'd like to ask you if you have been able to reach out more directly to the Union of Pensioners. Let me be more clear now. Nigerian Union of Pensioners, yes, the Federal Civil Service Pensioners chapter in Lagos, to find out what precisely the problem is, to be able to follow up to resolve their issues.
Yes. Thank you very much. Let me actually start by, addressing that issue. First and foremost, the Secretary of the Federal Lagos chapter of the Federal Civil Service Pensioners Union, brought some issues. Let me state here that we do not have 18,000, civil service pensioners in Lagos. By our record, we have a total of 3,700 pensioners in Lagos. And out of these 3,716 pensioners, 1,500 are federal civil service pensioners. 1,200 are state pensioners with federal share. So the basis of the 18,000 he actually came up with, to us, it's actually contestable.
So he said, I think the question to him then, and he's still here, was how many are they in his union? And I think he said 18,000. So maybe that was a national figure for, that's a possibility. I mean, he can always explain because he's still here, he's in Lagos. Okay. But he was saying of that figure, several of their members had not been, he didn't give a specific figure as to the number of people. But be that as it may, just a moment, be that as it may, what the executive secretary said is that the voice of one dissatisfied pensioner is louder than all the others who might be satisfied. So based on that premise, based on that baseline, have you been able to reach out? Because they will not just come on TV to come and complain for the heck of it. Have you been able to reach out in the last 1 week to find out if what exactly the problem is and to see how it can be resolved?
Yes, we've actually done that.
Okay.
We actually went the extra mile. I have with me here evidence of the payment we made. Like he said that the payment made to one John Ophili, was not actually true. And he went ahead, to state that it's a pointer to the fact that there could be some awesome act, going on in the directorate. And I want to, put to him that the evidence of payment made to John Ophili, it's here,
Is that the pensioner who is yet to receive his 2 million plus?
Exactly, 2 million plus.
Okay.
We did our investigation and we realized that the payment was actually made. And this is an evidence. This is actually, a GMX, a printer from the GMX platform. However, the issue remains that what we expected that to actually show the directorate's proactiveness in response to complaint, when he wrote John Ophili himself expressing, his concern for the fact that, his arrears was not paid to him, who responded timely, which is the letter he actually showed, telling him that his payment has been, made. We expected that if actually on reviewing his bank statement, he did not see the payment, all we expect is for him to have gotten back to us to say, okay, I have actually gone through my bank statement and I did not see the payment. But surprisingly, we did not see any response to that. The only time we now came to realize that that payment was not credited to his account was when Mr. Abiodun came on air, showing the pensioner's bank statement. If that was done, what we ought to have done at that point in time would have been to liaise with GMX, just like he said. Pass on that complaint to GMX and said, this pensioner we have paid as evidenced by, the GMX platform here, said he had not seen this money. Kindly help us investigate and let us know if this payment failed. of course, we know it's a new order. We will not actually represent that payment instantly. By process, it is expected.
So now, I mean, you have talked about how he has seen, I mean, you have responded, and it was even the response you gave from Pitad that he brought to, you know, the TV. The question now is, you are holding another evidence from your platform saying that he's been credited, but he's yet to see it in his account. Has he been able, have you been able to confirm that the person whom you intend to pay has finally received his money? Okay, by this evidence I have here, the payment is actually reflecting pending. Now, this is actually the challenge with the GMX platform. When a payment is reflecting pending, we cannot actually conclude if the payment has gone through or not. The only way out is when the pensioner complains, you know, we ask the pensioner to provide the directorate with his bank statement. We actually verify from the bank statement if actually it's not credited. We now get across to GMX and said, we have paid this pensioner. From the GMX platform, it's still reflecting pending after payment. Kindly investigate and get back to us. Why this need to be done is the fact that we need to ensure that the needful it's done by following processes, because we cannot just go ahead to make the representation based on the fact that, you know, he has actually passed on the information. GMX is thus expected to carry out their own investigation, just like he has said. One, investigate to confirm that truly that payment failed, and after that, ensure that this failed payment has been credited back to the funding account, based on which they will now actually instruct Peter to present the payment again. All over again?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Lagos now. I'm sure my colleagues have guests in Lagos, and I'm sure they also have questions for you.
Well, yeah, we'll get to our guests in Lagos. Well, Mr. Nathan, if you could clarify this, in your opening, you did say, after Mr. Asanato said that, to say that there's a glitch in the system, it's not correct. And you then say that some of the pensioners, because they're elderly, may be making mistakes in their submissions, and that is what is responsible for them not getting their payment. Is that what you're saying?
Well, let me quickly, you know, correct that. There is definitely, to say that there is no glitch, you know, might not be, you know, entirely right. Glitch implies that, you know, of course, payment made by the directorate, you know, due to, you know, network challenge had actually not been credited into, you know, the pensioner's account. So definitely, like my executive secretary said in his previous presentation while he was here, glitch exists in the cost of payment.
All right.
But I was just saying that outside, you know,
no.
The glitch,
I get your point. I get your point.
Circumstances.
I understand what you're saying. We just need to clarify what Mr. Sanato said, that it's not correct. But you say it is correct that there could be a glitch. All right, let's introduce the two guests who we have in Lagos. Comrade Azuna is the National Secretary, Federal Civil Service Pensioners. Good morning. Thank you again for joining us. You heard what both gentlemen have said, and your members have been protesting. So give us your direct response. What is the current situation now? Comrade Azuna, that's for you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Comrade Christian Azuna. I'm the National Secretary of the Federal Civil Service Pensioners. Thank you for inviting me to this program.
Comrade Azuna, do you have members who are protesting who have not been paid their pensions in your union?
To the best of my knowledge, as the National Secretary and the Federal Civil Service Pensioners nationwide, we do not have pensioners who are protesting except the Lagos State chapter.
What does that mean? Because there was a protest last time. So you're saying all other pensioners in different parts of the country have been paid except those in Lagos.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Quite agreed. There could be some issues with payment of pensions.
Is it there could be or there is?
There is. However, there has been no protest over the payment of pensions across the Federation except Lagos State. You asked a question, if there is issues with pensions across the Federation. Well, of course, quite agreed. It could not be said that there is no issue with pension payments. However, there is no protest across the Federation. That's the point I am trying to make, except in Lagos State.
All right. Okay.
Sorry, my dear. Without the express permission of the national, we want to state here that the protest in Lagos is unilateral and arbitrary. It does not represent the entire Federation.
Are you suggesting that what they should have sought permission from you or from the national body before the protest non-payment of the pensions?
Quite all right.
Okay. We have Comrade Michael here with us. So you heard your comrade and what he said. What do you think?
In the first instance, let me start by saying I'm highly elated for you to have me back in the studio. I want to appreciate the Channels Television for giving me my office, the Federal Civil Service Pensioners Chapter in Lagos, this platform to express ourselves in pension-related matters that relates to my chapter in Lagos. And I equally want to say this to the Executive Secretary, Dr. Ejikeme, that the first time that this interview came up, I hereby, in the course of my expressing my displeasure over what transpired, I might have said some words, either by gesticulation or what have you. I want to tell her that it's quite unfortunate that I personally am sorry, and my chapter as well is sorry. But all the same, that does not change the narrative of our demands from PITAD. It's quite unfortunate as well that my body, the Federal Civil Service Pensioners Chapter, branch, which is an affiliate body of Nigerian Union of Pensioners, will be here in the studio to work at cross purposes. Let me put it that way. Let's be factual.
Is that what he's doing?
That's the way it sounds. That's the way it looks.
All other areas have been paid apart from Lagos.
Sir,
is that correct or not?
Except Lagos. I wouldn't know. I only know of my own chapter.
Okay.
And I can't operate. My office can't operate outside the jurisdiction of its own base. That's the truth.
I'm sorry to jump in. Ever since the last meeting, has those members who have not been paid, have they now been paid?
No. No, in capital. No.
How many?
I still have, excuse me, sir, I still have with me the very same. Why I picked on this is because it's more peculiar in nature. Reason why I came with this, and thankfully, the gentleman at the other hand in Abuja did mention it. He talked, we all heard Madam Pitard last week when we met here, that there are issues of glitch and stuff. I want to believe, how could a glitch suspend somebody's entitlement legitimately, rightfully, to that pensioner, a member, for more than 3 years and still running? and still running. We are in the month of June now. This issue, and it's not as if I'm making up stories. This emanates from the table of the executive secretary, saying this person had been paid. Before the man came to us, there are series of letters personally written to Pitad. Nothing positive came out of it.
So is this the only person that has not been paid?
Several.
How many?
There are many. In fact, my bag is outside the studio. I have many that I came with.
Well, the last time we had a conversation with you, comrade, you said several, and
yes,
we asked directly just how many. For example, our guest, one of our guests in the studio, says that you don't have 18,000 members here in Lagos. It says, according to their figures, that you have 3,700. So I think it's important to establish the figures here. First, do you have 18,000 members here in Lagos?
Fact does not lie.
Is that yes?
Yes.
You have 18,000.
We have close to 18,000. You know, this is how to get the fact of the numbers of your member within your base. We issue out IV card for fact of them being a bona fide federal pensioners.
Verified one?
Verified. We don't just give out our ID cards without getting fact of the retirement letter showing fact of that person to have been retired.
How many have you given out?
If you want me to, or if I had known, I would have brought fact of what the figure. We have a ledger.
You don't have an idea of?
I thought it should be 18,000 naturally.
It's about 18,000.
About 18,000.
About 18,000. And for the gentleman at the other hand to say it's just 3,000, you know, let's look at it this way. Lagos was formerly the federal capital of our dear country, Nigeria. And majority of these people that retired, and we equally have the capital, the headquarters of the ministries stationed in Lagos. Majority of these people that retired afterwards, they don't go back to their respective home states. They stay put. And you know the number of federal pensioners that are there.
But they retired in Lagos.
They retired in Lagos. In fact, some of them did not even, some that did not even retire in Lagos, they came back to Lagos.
So aside this Ophili John case, just to be clear again, would you say there are as much as 10, 20, 30 other cases that you have like this?
The ones that have as similar as this?
That have not been paid.
And have long backlog of unpaid.
Exactly. Even the recently paid 3 months. There are some that are yet to be paid.
Are they up to 10?
Many. I say I have.
Are they more than 10?
More than.
So
more than.
How come you don't have the figures? At least so that you can present this before Pitad.
I think it was about 2 days ago that I was reached out to, telling me that I have to be back to the studio.
I think this question was actually asked last week, and you said you were going to check, and you know, if you had the details here. Because so we can lay bare, at least Pitad is here, they can take this on quick enough.
Good. Even beyond the recently paid 3 months, the second stanza of payment, 9 months. Because the first one was 9 months, afterwards another 9 months came. Could you believe that there are several as well that are yet to even receive that 9 months? It could be as a result of the same glitch.
9 months?
Yes.
But Mr. Nathan says, even Mr. Sanato, this, if assuming there were glitches or challenges, in a day or two, those technical hitches are usually sorted, and then members should be paid. And largely, it's because some of your members don't fill some of those forms properly, and so those inconsistencies are largely, if I understand him right, largely responsible for why your members have not been paid, those who have not been paid, that is.
That cannot hold, in the sense that if, in the first instance, they were paid, if they have issues relating to the account or what have you, they wouldn't have been paid in the first instance. Look at this. That person that was not paid in the second batch, she eventually got the next 3 months, and the last 3 months that was recently paid. How come the one that was not paid?
But is it true that, because some of what we hear is, some of your members are paid, in some cases, twice in a month, which is an error on the part of those who are paying. And so what they do is, if members receive payment twice, they don't receive payment the next month, because naturally that error needs to be corrected. And they told us that when they approach your members for that, your members say, well, we thought it was a quote dash. And in some cases, they had to clear all of this. Are you aware of that?
Well, there are pockets of them like that. But whichever one that comes to us...
Again, you have to be clear on statistics. When you say that there are pockets of them like that, as the leader of the group, you have to have an accurate number of, that discrepancy occurring. Do you?
Of course, we run our office very well. We know how to, administratively, we put everything in. This is what used to happen whenever they have issues like that. When others get paid, and they, in the first instance, have been paid, say, twice. Normally, when you expect another payment and it does not, they will come forward to us, say, my money has not been paid. And when we check through, there's nothing we go through to get fact of it. It's just a statement of account, because it's garbage in, garbage out. It is therein we now get to know this person has been paid twice.
Right. Comrade Azuna, what is your ultimate concern this morning about non-payment of pensioners?
First of all, I want to state explicitly our position. This is a national body of federal civil service pensioners, those who sojourn in the public service. Okay? And we have chapters across the federation. I suppose there is procedure in administration. In as much as I've stated, this is a chapter, a component of the national body, Lagos State. We have other state chapters across the federation with a national executive in office, in council. Please, I want to state that the Lagos State chapter, represented by my able comrade, the state secretary, does not have the standing to act on behalf of the nation, national executive.
Well, he's acting on behalf of pensioners here in Lagos.
I'm coming.
So just to be clear, are you saying the agitations are not legitimate, or you're saying he should not be the one presenting those agitations?
Please, without regard, there is a channel of doing this representation, okay? This is supposed to be an internal affairs. I want to plead that this issue should not be handled by a state chapter. We should have regard or respect for authority. I'm coming for authority. Are you getting it? Am I understood?
Are you saying that Comrade Abiodun is not the legitimate leader of the National Association of Pensioners State Chapter, and as such, he should not be the one championing the agitation? Or you're saying that their concerns about unpaid pensions are not legitimate?
In as much as there could be issues with pensions, but Comrade Michael Abiodun, as a state secretary, is not supposed to stand on behalf of. We have procedure.
Okay. I did ask you about your ultimate concern. Now, that is your ultimate concern. Now, before Comrade responds to you, assuming without conceding that that were the case, because it's your internal affair. He says that their members have not been paid for, some of them, 9 months. Are you aware of that? Is the national body aware of that? And what did you do within that time before they protested?
Let me say it this way. We have complaints from across the Federation.
I thought you said it's only Lagos that is not being paid. Every other person has been paid.
It's not only Lagos.
Oh.
And that's the irony. It's not only Lagos. Even Lagos pensioners in Lagos State still bring their complaints to the national body, which we forward to PTAD, and they've been taken care of. The issue here is that a state like Lagos State cannot usurp the functions of the national body.
All right. Comrade, respond.
Thank you. You see, whatever amuses one makes one laugh. Let me put it that way. I want to analyze the statement the National Secretary said, let's say in your home, you were fortunate to see an armed robber scale your fence. Would you want to tell the police that, look, I want to defend myself? Because by right, my station of operation is Lagos. And those that come forward before us, they are legitimate federal pensioners, residents in Lagos. If they had no issue, they would never come to us. And as for him saying we need to get clarification, we have a standard rule. We have the Constitution that backs. As enshrined in the Constitution, we have our respective jurisdiction. Abuja, yes, is the national headquarters. But I want to believe that whatever that is happening in Abuja is Abuja. The reason why we have what have you? We have the brands scattered all over the country, right. 36, and including Abuja. I don't expect, to be candid, I don't expect what my fellow comrade is saying concerning the plight of pensioners, because the essence of us being in the office is to give succor, right, relief to pensioners that are aggrieved. And they came to us with it.
Right. I recall last week, comrade, you said that you had actually tabled this before the chairman, I think, or the head of your union in Abuja, and the person had met with the head of PTAD, and I think you said that, and she was saying she can't exactly remember, but you said you had pushed it to the national body, which then met with PTAD. Am I right?
Yes.
So who was that person that met with PTAD?
Is the national chairman.
Who is also, I imagine comrade here is also a part of the, at least it should be in copy of that.
I wouldn't know, because one-on-one we did discuss, and there was nothing we do in Lagos that the national headquarters does not get aware of.
So, Comrade Azuna, are you aware of that? Did the chairman indeed meet with PTAD on behalf of Lagos pensioners, which shows that he actually escalated?
Not only for Lagos.
Oh, generally?
Generally.
Oh, so this was not about Lagos?
It's not about Lagos. Lagos handles, but whatever we do officially in Lagos is related. And even before we take it up.
I thought you said that the chairman or the head of the union had met with PTAD over the case of Lagos.
Others, because most of the problems you are having, pensioners are having, is right there in Lagos. Majority. Reason is because the bigger your head, the bigger the headache. We have majority of these pensioners, residents there in Lagos, and we are the ones that are there.
So, Comrade Azuna, what has the national body done about that? It looks like you are in copy, so to speak, of the issues concerning Lagos as well.
As expected, the national body has always been in contact with PTAD, as well as handling issues of pensioners, expectedly as a national body. We have always, like before we came here, We have written several letters on behalf of as a national body.
Did you get answers?
Of course, sometimes we don't. Anyway, yes. Sometimes we don't. Yes. Like the 3 months arrears outstanding that has just been paid. We wrote to the Ministry of Finance. We have always acted on behalf of pensioners across the federation, which is our responsibility.
All right, we'll get that.
For a single state to come out now to single itself.
We get that point, but
okay.
This is about pensioners who have not been paid. So from your figures, how many of the pensioners, for instance, in Lagos or nationally, have not been paid, and for how long?
Of course, sorry, I am not in a position to do that because.
Do what?
I mean, we are not in position to know how many pensioners have not been paid.
You're the national secretary.
Who are we? You said we are not in a position.
The national executive or the union in its entirety, because we are a union. We are not the agency of government responsible for payment other than PITAD.
So how many people were you complaining for to PITAD?
We liaise with PITAD. Ours is...
How many protesters, on those who've not been paid, did you take that complaint to PITAD?
Okay, people send in individual complaints.
How many?
As many as possible. Because it's across the federation.
Are they up to 1,000?
Very many.
How many? You're the national secretary. You hold the documents. You should know.
Oh, okay. If you permit me.
You're permitted. Go ahead.
Okay. I will forward the information to, because it comes periodically. Okay. It doesn't come at once.
How many came the last period?
Sorry, I wouldn't be able to say now because I don't have the the record or the statistics.
Okay, so how much is this pensions, by the way?
Is that the monetary figure?
Yes.
I won't be able to say because it's an individual issue.
So wait, the only thing you can tell us now is that Lagos should not be the one championing this protest. That's all you came to say.
Yes. Yes. That's our contention.
Okay. So, Mr. Senator, I have a question for you. Let me come to you very quickly. You say that once schedule of payments fails, you get the report and then it should be resolved within 24 hours. But Mr. Comrade Abiodun is saying that the failed payments, some of them are running into 9 months. Am I correct, Mr. Abiodun?
Yes, more than.
So, my question is for Mr. Senator. So, how long should a failed payment for how long should it be addressed statutorily? Because if you do a bank transaction that fails, it should be 5 working days for it to be addressed. So if we could relate that to gift mix, how long should a failed payment take for it to be addressed?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said earlier, when we receive a service desk request from PITAD, we first send to the CBN, and then we get feedback as to the status, the actual status of the payment. And when it is failed, it is within 24 hours the funds are returned back to the funding account in CBN. And the report is sent back to PITAD. So PITAD is expected to reprocess those payments. So give and take, I believe it should be within 48 hours. That is, except if, of course, they are doing their own due diligence to try and confirm the reasons for failure. Like my colleague said earlier, the reasons for failure may be basically because of an invalid account number. As he said, the pensioners, some of them are a bit aged, and they may mistakenly put the wrong account details. So they will have to get back to the pensioner, get the correct account detail, upload to the employee master data in the system before the payment is paid. So let's say that process of getting to the pensioner involved and correcting those account details may take a longer time. But all things being equal, I believe within a week it should be resolved.
So how do you explain their complaints about their failed payments running into 9 months? Mr. Senator, did you hear that? How do you explain their complaints about their own payments running into 9 months, failed payments?
Okay. Like I said, part of the processes are outside the system. I gave an instance of a pensioner that provides an invalid account detail. Now, we expect that PITAT would get back to the pensioner involved to get the correct account details corrected, sent and uploaded into GiveMe's master data. Thereafter, they can reprocess at their end. So I wouldn't put a time frame to when they're able to do that process. My colleague here might shed more light on that. But as far as the GiveMe system is concerned, within 24 hours, we are able to ascertain the payments that failed and why they failed.
Yeah, but Mr. Senator, if you can't give us this clarity, if it takes nothing less than, look, it's not even up to a month, and here they're talking about 3 months. And that's why some of them think, they even wonder, are we sure that this money is belonging to pensioners and not being stashed up in fixed deposits somewhere and things like that? So when they come up with that kind of suggestion, and you can't explain, that justifies what they say, doesn't it?
No. Let me respond to that, please. The funds are kept in an account called the Treasury Single Account. That is the TSA. It's an account that is domiciled in the CBN. And MDAs that have access to the account are restricted to the warrants and AIEs they get. Using the GiveMe system, the payments are processed and paid directly to end beneficiaries. So the MDAs do not have access to fix or to get the funds. Everything is done electronically. And the account does not belong to the MDA per se.
On a final note,
but to the whole federal government.
On a final note,
TSA.
Mr. Senator and Mr. Nathan, so we've not been able to just put our finger on what exactly is wrong in the case of at least Mr. Philly John and perhaps others. So is there a simple explanation? Is it because the account details is wrong? Is it because a person was paid more than once? Is it because you sense fraud or this money is indeed being diverted somewhere? Can we just place our finger on this particular case so at least we can get some sort of closure?
Okay, simply, put, like I said previously, Mr. John Ophili's payments had been investigated. And here in this, studio, I've just given an evidence from the GiveMe platform confirming that definitely this payment was actually made, though reflecting pending. Just to, clarify the doubt earlier expressed by Mr. Abiodun that this payment was not even made, that it is possible that, as a result of, possible or unwholesome, acts in the directorate, the money might have been diverted. So that is one, and at least that is, a proof to the fact that this payment was actually made. Now, like I said previously, yes, from his own point of view, he had actually been able to print John Ophili's account to say that this payment was not credited to his account. By implication, it means that this payment might have failed. And like I said, it is not something that cannot be resolved. What we expected, just like we have communicated, to the pensioner, we are actually prompt. We have a whole department dedicated to complaint resolution, which shows how proactive, how focused, how committed the directorate is to complaint resolution. And it was based on Mr. Foley's, letter to the directorate complaining about these areas that we responded to him. Based on this evidence we have displayed on the GBS platform that we've paid,
so, comrade,
that this
Mr.
money
Nathan,
has actually been
we
paid.
need to wrap up, Mr. Nathan. So,
if
comrade,
in response,
he
had responded to us, attaching his own bank statements.
Hold on, Mr. Nathan. Let's go, just as you wind down. So, he says this payment has been processed, and it might have been pending. So, has he, Mr. Philip, received this payment now?
In the first instance, I want to say there was nothing of such. We up till this very day that I'm here in the studio, there was something of either our member, Mr. John Ophili, has been contacted to let him know. You know what I'm very angry over? I'm human. For somebody that put in 35 solid years into service, and his entitlement, be it the monthly, right from the year 2019, May, we're in the month of June. And this person, not pension? In fact, it's not up to 27,000. And of recent, about 2 months or so, the woman, the wife, who was the source of his died. You need to see this man is a working corpse.
Gentlemen, we need to wrap up. We have to thank you.
Please, I want to say this. I want to say this.
Just quickly, because we need to go.
Please, if the Mr. Ini, or what was his name? I'm sorry. If he's so sure that this money has been paid, I want to appeal to him strongly. He needs to at least do something quickly before this matter, because as I'm speaking, this our member is lying in the hospital. Please, please, for God's sake, I beg you.
All right, Comrade Abiodun Michael, Secretary.
Let me...
Yeah, just a minute. Let me wrap them up. Comrade Abiodun Michael, the Secretary, Federal Civil Service Pensioners, Lagos, and Comrade Christian Azuna is the National Secretary, Federal Civil Service Pensioners. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on today. Go ahead, Mr. Nathan.
Yeah, let me say this for the record, that Mr. Abiodun do not need to beg the Directorate. Like I said previously, the Directorate is not only, committed. The Directorate is proactive when it comes to complaint resolution. We do that without,
Yeah, but I think
any need
more
to be promised.
Speaking specifically to this
Speaking
matter.
specifically to this matter, like I said, what actually, we expect is that, the comrade Abiodun in particular, should actually send us.
No. You have it on your own paper here now, saying that the payment is pending. You have confirmed that he is yet to receive the money.
Yes.
So the question is, what are you going to do about it to ensure that he gets his money?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. What we need, we are already in touch with JUMIX to actually, carry out their due diligence and actually confirm that, the failed payment has actually been credited to the, funding account to enable us.
Has it been credited to the funding account?
We are yet to get this.
It has to be investigated.
You are yet to get this, and this happened since last week?
We are yet to get a service desk a report to check the status.
There needs to be a more efficient way.
Within 24 hours today, once we leave here, before the end of work today, I should give him the status.
How soon do you think Mr. Ophili will be able to get his money?
We are sure, like it said, we are sure that this issue is, something that could be resolved within 48 hours, just like he said.
So within 48 hours, we should check back and Mr. Ophili should have received his money?
As soon as we get the confirmation from the GMX team, that definitely the fund has been credited.
We will call you back in 48 hours.
We are sure that this will be credited into his account.
By the latest Monday, we should be able to find out the status report, at least on Mr. Ophili's matter.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We're totally out of time. I'm so sorry, we have to go. We work with time here. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program this morning. Mr. Jeremiah Asanato is the Deputy Program Manager, System Support and Sustainability at GIFMIS, and Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. Thank you so much for coming on. And Mr. Ini Nathan is the Deputy Director, Accounts, Civil Service Pension Department at BITAD. Thank you so much for coming on as well.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for watching this morning. I will certainly keep you updated on this particular matter. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.
Thank you for watching. So from all of us here, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.